Photography. My name is Dirksón, and we just spent a weekend on a German island. I had the camera with me and we just took some pictures. So let's take a look. So all these images that you see right now in the beginning are pictures I took with the cheap camera, the Canon EOS 550D, also known as T2i, with a 10 to 80 millimeters wide-angle lens. The camera cost about 250 euros. The lens cost about 220 euros. So you can get this camera lens combination for about less than 500 euros. It's a very cheap combination and you can get these images out of it. So let's take a look. So here I'm shooting with the sun behind me. Everything is well lit. And now I'm changing. Now I have the sun in front of me and Anna is here and I use a flash. Why do I use a flash? Because when I'm shooting against the sun and I want the blue sky still, everything in the foreground will be in shadow, where the shadow, everything will be really dark in shadow. So when you take a look here at Anna, I couldn't take this image like this. So I add flash to have a well exposed face right here. So you see the flash here up in my left hand, and I have the camera in my right hand, and I can get these images very easily. There is no softbox, there is no light stand, there is no tripod. This is all done handheld. This is without a flash, this is with the flash, and it's the same moment. So when we get closer, it's actually the same moment. And because I'm with the wide-angle lens, 10 millimeter, I'm standing very close to her. You don't see it in the frame, but I'm really close and I have the flash right here. So I have much output power of the light hitting the face. Okay, let's go on. It's still the cheap camera, the 550D, and all images are edited in under 20 seconds. And I think you can get really great images even with the cheap camera. When you take a look at the sharpness, I think it looks very nice here. You see all the details. And the camera lens costs 220 euros. The camera costs 200 to 250 euros used. You can't buy it new, it's too old. Or you can buy a newer model, a newer camera, and you probably have better sensor, better stuff in the camera, but you don't actually need that. You can get great images straight out of the camera, and it doesn't need to be expensive. That's what I want to show you. It doesn't need to cost much. And with the super wide angle lens, you get much in the frame. When you take a look at how wide the background is, and this actually is the camera I use to make videos. It's not the camera that I use for photographs normally, but I just took some images that I couldn't have taken with the expensive camera because I don't have a super wide angle lens with me. So here, for example, we see the cornfield and the blue sky and the person in the middle, and I think we can get really nice images with the cheap gear. So we spent one weekend here. Here are some more images. And over the weekend we took 2,600 images. I've selected those which I like most, and I've edited 1,400 more or less this morning. So I edit very quickly, very fast. You can do that too with the 20-second workflow by Dirksón that you will find on our website, dirksonphotography.com. And this is what you can get with a very cheap camera lens. Okay, let me just skip through. Here you can actually see how wide the camera is. Now I hold it in my hand and you can nearly see the hip. You can see half of the body from one arm length. Okay. Then we went to the beach when the sun went down, and here again we're still with the cheap camera. It's still very basic, very amateur. But with a little bit of creativity, you can get great images. Here we use a flash. I now have it on a light stand and I have a softbox around it. In the background is the sun going down. I expose for the background, so I take a picture where the sun is, where I can see the yellow and the orange, and then I take the flash into the frame and add the light on Anna's face. That is how you can get images like this. And it doesn't need to be an expensive camera. I think it's very important to just to show this, that this is what you can get very easily. The flash, it's the Yongnuo YN600 RT. The flash costs 110 euros. To control the flash off camera, you pay 70 euros for the controller. The softbox is more than 100 euros, but actually it's not necessary. I could have done these images without the softbox. And yeah, here's some more wide angle shots. Very well lit. This is just natural light, blue sky. When you have the light makes the difference in an image. When you have great light, you don't need an expensive camera. I also took some pictures at this place with the expensive camera, and you will probably not see a difference. You might even like these images more because you have a wider angle. So when I take a look at the... Now this is with the Canon 6D with 35mm, and I don't think the images are so different. I think they look very similar. But this camera is much more expensive and the camera lens is much more expensive. So when the light is nice, you can get great images with any camera. Like this. Okay, now we go into the expensive camera. Now we go into the Canon 6D. And I had two lenses, the 135mm 2.0 and the 35mm 1.4. Now these images you see are shot with the 135mm lens, a telephoto lens, where you can get great images of faces, half-body shots, and you don't see much of the surrounding. You only see a little bit of the surrounding, but this camera lens it's not to get an image of the surrounding, it's to get an image of a person, of a face, of a character. And I'm shooting all these images at f2.0. I don't change that because I want the blurred out background, and this camera delivers very well even at f2.0. Now I'm changing the lens to 35mm. This is a wide angle lens. You see the difference. Anna's face now is much smaller in the image than here. When you take a look at this image, her face is very large compared to here. Because now I'm using a wide angle lens, and you will see much more of the background, much more of the scenery, much more of the surrounding. Now here was a tree, and everything is dark, but this tree is lit. So we put Anna here, looking into the direction of the light, and we can get great shots. You can work with two levels. Now what I mean is we have a foreground here, Anna and the tree, and the background, which is out of focus. Blue sky and these trees, these leaves. This is a two-level composition. Now here we have a three-level composition, you could say. The foreground is this blurred out part, then the middle ground, which is Anna and the tree, which are sharp, and the third level is the background, blue sky and the trees. So you have a more dynamic in the image. It has more depth when you have several layers. Okay, I just changed positions. Now I'm behind this wall of trees, and now I'm on the other side here, and I can get some great images with all of her body. I'm shooting at f1.4, so it's very open. Also some close-ups at f1.4. I can get great shallow depth of field when I get close. When I don't get close, I don't get great shallow depth of field with a wide angle lens. Okay, so we switch positions again. Now when we take a look, okay. Now all images are edited in under 20 seconds, and you can do that too with the 20 seconds workflow by Dirksón. Let's just skip through it. Also some landscape shots, some detail landscape shots. I would just go through it. Anna took some pictures of me as well. It's also nice when you have some pictures. Very often the person behind the camera doesn't get many images of himself, so it's always nice when somebody takes a picture of you. Okay. Now here again, we're here again. I've shown you the images in the beginning where we had the cheap camera. Now we have the, let's say, expensive camera. Again, I have the flash in my left hand. You see here my arm. Here's the flash. And in the right hand, I have the camera shooting against the sun. So I use a flash. With the flash, I can have the background well lit and the face well lit. And I get a more fashion look. The character of the image has a more fashion look because of the light. This is again the Yongnuo flash, YN600EXRT, I think it's called. It costs about 110 euros, very cheap, very great quality. It delivers great images. Anna took again some pictures of me. Then we went to the beach. I would just skip through it, so we don't have to take a look at all images. We can just take a look at a selection. But you'll see all images that I edited. I edited all these images this morning. It took about, I think, 2 hours for these 1,300 images. When I edit these images, I need about 8 seconds for one image. 5 to 8 seconds. And I've developed a workflow where you can learn it and how you can, after one day, your images will look like this from the editing part in under 20 seconds. And you see I've used several styles of editing. These images do not all look the same. You have different styles, different colors, and different looks. Now you see the 35mm lens at f1.4. I think the background is not so blurred out because I'm too far away from Anna. When I get closer, the background will blur out more. And I'm shooting wide open at f1.4. Now I change, let's take a look at these images. Now I change lenses. Now I go from the 35mm to the 135mm. I see less of the surrounding, but I see more of the person. The person is in the foreground. The person is big. The person is what matters. Everything else is secondary. But you get an idea of the background, of the scenery, of the surrounding. You don't see it. You don't see that much, but you get an idea. And I really like this camera lens, the 135mm. You see f2.0 all the time. And this is how shallow the depth of field is. This is the 135mm lens. You only see a little bit sharp, everything else is blurred out. And you don't even see where we are. When you only take a look at these blurred out parts, you can't even see we're in a cornfield or something like this. Okay, I just skip through it. Maybe I just choose this view, so you see the images we took. And how the look of the editing is. Now what we did here, Anna is turning her body away from the sun, turning her face back into the sun, so we have a nice light on her face. When Anna would look to me, take a look how that would look like with these images. Now here Anna is looking to me, it's not nice. Now it's a wonderful woman, but the light is not nice, totally bad light positioning. Where do we position the light? Matters. And with the sun, you don't position the sun, you position yourself according to the sun. So as a photographer, you always know where the light source is, or when you're in a in a room with artificial light, you always know where the light sources are and which color temperature they have. And you decide which light source is the most powerful and which one will you choose as your main light. Photography is all about lighting. If you want to get great images, learn to understand light. When you understand the light, any camera will give you great images. Maybe not so blurred out with the background, but actually I could use a kit lens here with the cheap camera and we could have gotten great images. Would look different, but still great images. Now these are all 135mm. You see it down here, f2.0. The settings are ISO very low, 100 or even ISO 50, and then the shutter speed accordingly. I shoot all images in manual mode, so the camera actually doesn't help me. I don't like the AV mode or TV mode or auto mode. I like to control everything, so if anything goes wrong, it's my fault and I really know what I did wrong. And when I'm in auto mode, I never get all images nice. So manual mode to me is the most easy mode, the easiest mode to work with. Because everything is in my control. If everything goes wrong, it's my fault. And I like to have responsibility. So it's manual is the way to go for me. It's very easy. I choose an aperture, f2.0. I look at the weather and the sun. Then I choose the ISO. When I go to f2.0 on this camera lens, 135mm, I push the ISO very low, ISO 100 or even lower. And then I take a look, I take a picture, look at the shutter speed, and then I choose the shutter speed. And this can vary. This varies often during a shoot. Okay. Now, when you take a look at weather, there are many people who don't like to take pictures in bad weather. And this was a scene where it was really gray. It started to rain even, and there was no sun. But what's very nice is when there is no sun, you get when it's very cloudy, the light is very even. Everything is evenly lit, and you don't have these hard shadows in faces. You have very soft skin tone. A very soft skin because the light source is very soft. Now take a look. Everything on Anna's face is very soft. And we have a really warm tone. Now this is the unedited images. This is the image straight off the camera. It looks very flat. To me it looks too cold. It doesn't have warmth. And now take a look at these fields. Now this is from the color. It's a very warm atmosphere. And to me, images is about emotions. It's about facial expression and colors. When I have a great facial expression and I have great colors, to me, I have a great image. I don't really care if the horizon is straight, if the lines are straight, if I see all of the body, if I see her shoes and the head, or if I only see half of the body. To me, it's more about the colors than about anything else. And sometimes the images look very nice straight out of the camera, sometimes they don't. I don't really focus much in camera. On the other hand, often we get great images straight out of the camera. When we take a look at all these images, now let's take a look. All these images look really very well straight out of the camera. It looks like this. So I don't actually have to edit these images. On the left side, it's unedited. And they all look fine. It's all, I really like the images straight out of the camera. I wouldn't have to edit the images, but as I always load all images into my program, I always edit them. I don't have to, but I do. And often the changes are not so huge. When you take a look left to right, the differences are not so huge. Sometimes very minor changes when I do it right in camera. But I don't focus on doing it right in camera, so sometimes the white balance is off, which is okay for me. But this is straight out of the camera, and I could have left it as it is. Okay, let's go on. Now these images we all took during one weekend, and our goal was not to take pictures, our goal was to have a nice time together. And we rented 2 bikes, made a tour with the bikes, and then we stopped wherever we thought it was a nice place to take some images. If you see the image soft, it's because the program needs some time to render the image. Okay, let's just go through it. You see, to me personally, color and facial expression is the most important part to an image. Now you could argue her hand is not in the frame, her feet are not all in the frame, but I think they're very beautiful images, and they work very well. And it's all fun, it's all private. There's no money involved, there's no client, this is just family. It's just Anna and me, and this is when one day we have children, they can take a look at the images to see how we were when we were young and what we did with our free time. Some black and white images. Now I only had these 2 lenses, 135mm lens and 35mm lens. If I had to choose one lens only, I would go with the 50mm 1.8 STM lens, great camera lens, but I chose to go with the tele lens and the wide angle lens. And personally, I like the 135mm more than the 35mm. Here we used flash again, this time with the tripod or with the light stand and the softbox. This is an image that, now this is how I use flash. I choose an aperture, let's say right here we have 2.0 ISO. I choose settings that gives me a great background, where the background is well exposed. So on this frame, I can see the sunlight, I can see the atmosphere. This image captures the background, but not the person. The person is way too dark. So the background is well exposed, the person is not well exposed. It's just a silhouette, which could work fine, but it doesn't really work this way. But when we add flash, it looks like this. So there's one level, which is the background, to which we set the camera, and there's a second level when we use, when we want a person in the frame, which is the person, and the person I can light with a flash. So I have 2 different exposures, one for the background, one for the person, 2 different light settings. And when you mix them together, it will look like this. First I set the camera settings which will give me the background, then I choose the flash settings which will give me the light on Anna. This is again the 135mm lens. I'm pretty far away. I'm not standing near her, I'm some meters away. And then I changed to the 35mm wide angle lens, with which I could get much closer. Because it was very windy, the light stand was to fall down, so I went near Anna, so I could hold the light stand with one hand. You see it, it's not really straight, it's very windy and it wanted to fall down. Okay. Now you see what you can get after one weekend. Today is Monday, yesterday we came back. All the images are now edited. To me it's done. I will not focus much more on these images. They are done, and the week has begun, so new work is coming. And with the 20-second workflow by Dirksón, you can get editing like this very quickly and with great results. Anna took some pictures of me as well. Same style. Choosing the camera settings for the background, then choosing the light settings for the face. And you can get great images just like this, even in darkness. And we are at ISO 50. This is ISO 50, so it's great image quality, even when the sun goes down. This was, when we take a look at the time, it was nearly 9:30. Okay, that's it.